generations today care so much about branding. As a millennial, I care about branding.
Yeah.
If your brand is clean, it looks good, and I know that it's gonna be reliable because everybody I'm watching is using your product, I'm gonna be your loyal fan. Do It Best is one of those special companies. They're all about building your better brand. They're all about the success of others, which creates success for everybody. It's kind of like an unsettling urgency that I want to be better than what we are. You were up here giving your presentation and like my mind was going 100 miles an hour. It's not a selfish endeavor at all. I know a better version of me is ultimately going to be better for my company and those around me.
The feeling of being with people around you that are also really good at what they're doing and they're trying to get a lot better every day. I think if you find enough people that are like that and you can get the culture of that, it's pretty unstoppable.
Welcome to the Grit Blueprint Podcast, the playbook for building unmistakable brands that grow, lead, and last in the built world. I'm Stephanie Couch, the founder of Grit Blueprint, and I'm a lifelong building industry insider. I was raised here, built my career here, and now my team and I help others win here. The truth is, you can be the best option in your space and still lose to someone else who simply shows up better and more consistently. Each week on the Grit Blueprint, I'm going to show you how to stand out, earn trust, and turn your brand into a competitive advantage that lasts. If you're ready to be seen, known, chosen, and become unmistakable, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Thank you for joining us today on the Grit Blueprint. I'm your host, Stephanie Couch. Today, my guest is Matt Spinks. He is the assistant manager of Lumber King in Danville, Kentucky.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have been in this business a long time, which we're going to get into. But your story is really one of resilience and grit, which I obviously love because my company is called Grit Blueprint. So I think our industry is made up of a lot of really awesome, gritty people, and I know you're one of them. You grew up in the hardware and lumber world, and you have been watching your parents launch businesses in this space. Now you're in this space, and you had some hard times closing one of the businesses in the recession, which was one of the hardest times any of us have ever been through, I think, in this industry. And I know at one point you were like, I'm done with this industry. Just kind of thought you were going to tap out. But now you're back, and you are leading innovation. This year at the Independent Home Improvement Conference, you are actually winning an award. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, being honored as one of the Young Retailers of the Year. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. And
you have been also a 40 under 40 for another LBM Journal magazine. And you are quite the decorated person here. Tell me a little bit about your background, because you grew up in the lumber and hardware industry. So did I. I don't know if your experiences was like mine, but I loved going there when I was a little girl. It's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about growing up in a lumberyard and hardware store.
So lived there when I was a kid. Pretty much from birth. My dad had worked for numerous years for 84 Lumber, which is a huge company, but that's every little boy's, I'll say, magical playground. Every day. If it was my dad's responsibility to take me to daycare in the morning, I'd cry and he would take me there, and we'd color blueprints all day, right?
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
It was honestly, it was a gateway for me to always think in my mind growing up that being a store manager of a lumberyard was always what I was going to do. I thought my dad was the best at what he did, and to be fair to his credit, he was very good. He is very good. But that's kind of what got me started in it. I mean, every day after school, Mom would take us over there and let us talk to him. I was always friends with all the guys, all the workers. Some of them actually I help manage today.
That's really cool.
Which is it's special.
It's full circle for sure.
It is, and so that was kind of my childhood. But around 2007, my family kind of departed from 84 Lumber, and we started our own business, Builder's Choice. And actually was a very successful business up front. I think if it had been any other time than getting ready to head into that recession, I think we probably would have still been open today. I think there's a very distinct difference between being a very good store manager or being a very good business operator and running your business.
Yeah.
There's a big learning curve there, and there's a lot of
100%.
things. Exactly. There's a lot of things that, you know, other people take care of that you don't take care of, and then when you're trying to just stay afloat, that's something that, you know, I had the displeasure of seeing my parents argue in tears every day there for a long time going through middle school. So that was seeing that, and of course, my family filing bankruptcy, you know, in 2009, officially closing in 2010.
The worst possible timing.
Yeah, I mean, we lost everything.
That sucks.
And a matter of fact, we ended up, the only thing we could get a hold of was we were renting from another builder of ours whose spec homes didn't sell. We had to rent out that spec home. That's what he had to do. And it was now, which full circle, like you were talking, that subdivision where there were only 3 houses at, which we were renting one of them. Now there's probably 50 homes in that subdivision. So it is blooming again. But, you know, once we did that and we filed bankruptcy and Builder's Choice is no more, Lumber King kind of came in the picture. And that's where my dad has worked for the last going on 16 years now, 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
And I went through high school. You know, I was fortunate to still be able to play varsity football. I've got 2 state championship rings.
You're just a winner.
Yeah, I'm telling you, just a winner. But just something that was still special to be able to go to school where I was going to school. And to be honest with you, looking back on it now, that was probably something my parents couldn't afford.
Yeah,
was to go
made
there.
It happen.
Yeah, and you know, I've said this before to numerous people, but I really admire my parents for what they did, taking that leap and having the courage to start their own business. A lot of people will never do that, even if they should. They will never.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
You know, I think I grew up in an entrepreneurial household, my dad, and then his dad, obviously, but I was scared to death because of the recession. Same timing, so I graduated college in 2007, and my dad kind of wanted to sell the business, you know, a few years later. And after that recession, I was like, I didn't even think about buying it. I mean, I really now, like, I look back on it and I think, why did I not just do it? Like, I had it in me. Obviously, I've got my own business now. I also didn't have a lot of the skills I have because I went and worked somewhere else for 10 years. And I think it is one of the scariest, biggest leaps because you can look totally stupid. You are going to fail.
You are going to fail.
You might fail ultimately where you can't come back from it, which is that story there. What are some of the things, though, that you watching that as a younger person, a middle schooler, a high schooler, what do you think about now in your day that really came from that time? Because I can only imagine the like resistance and resilience that was built up in you to quitting, to, you know, giving up. You can't give up. You have to keep going. Like, what did that teach you that you use today?
It taught me a lot of things. But after eventually not realizing, because I grew up in this business and grew up wanting to pretty much be my dad, like a lot of kids do,
yeah,
right?
Sure. Every one of us.
You know, I didn't want to go into this industry because at the time I had a pretty bad hatred for it, and but at the same time I had no clue on earth what I wanted to do with myself as far as college, anything like that. So I wound up going to a community college and worked my way into Lumber King, and so. What that's done for me today is, as I've kind of gone through it and went through all the struggles of being 18 and 19, early 20s year old, and, you know, every decision that you make, you know, is going to have a consequence, whether it's or at least an impact, whether it's a good one or a bad one. And so it's not, to me, I know a lot of people, if they look at me, they kind of assume I take things a little too personal. But to be fair, in this business, in this industry, it has been nothing but personal for me. And so I know that at the end of the day, somebody's payroll has to be paid. If somebody wants a raise, you know, now you have to figure out how you're going to do more business to make up for that money you're spending. Also, not to be careless with my spending as far as what I bring into the store, what I order as far as inventory. You know, you don't want to have just an overabundance of inventory dollars just sitting there when it's not making you money. Like, you want to be very intentional about what you stock, what you sell, what you advertise, because frankly, it's, at least, especially with Lumber King, it's an employee-owned company. It's 100% employee-owned, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
So even though it's not my sole business to run,
Sure.
It's kind of like it still is. It's my money. It's my coworkers' money. It's my boss's money, and so you have. Unfortunately, everything does revolve around money to a certain extent, and you have to be.
That's what the point of business is, to make a profit.
Make it, and you don't want to lose it. And so, if going through all that hard time taught me anything, is that growing is special. Growing is fantastic, but if you grow too fast, too quick, and you're kind of not, you don't have if you lack like a spatial awareness of what you're doing as you're growing, you could find yourself in a massive hole.
Yeah, because at some point, the rocket ship is going to start to break apart in the atmosphere, and it can blow up, right?
Yeah.
You got to make sure to test it. And I think it is, especially with rapid growth, it is a good lesson to try to, can we calm the storm a little bit so the ship doesn't break? Let's keep this thing whole, but also push it as hard as it can. That's a really fine balance. How do you balance that hunger? Because I feel that very much when we talk. You're hungry personally, you're hungry for Lumber King to grow, you want things to be, you want a state championship ring every day, right? Like that's how people like us operate, right? We wake up and we want to win. How do you deal with that when not everyone in the world feels that way, which is kind of incomprehensible to me. But how do you deal with that when people on your team, people, that you lead, aren't necessarily as hungry, think differently? Maybe you have to inspire them. How do you balance that?
It's a great question. And actually one that I do think about. I think about it a lot because you kind of encounter it every day. And so, you see, most of my childhood, most of my early days in my early career with Lumber King has always been with my father being my superior. But as of the last 7 or 8 years, I've also dealt with other superiors that I had, and you get different management styles.
Sure.
And so I've always been a big supporter of not being afraid to be a copycat, but also putting your own spin on it to make it work. And so number one, I feel like you have to be contagious in your attitude.
Yeah.
And you're not always going to have the best attitude, but you have to make sure that you're putting your people in a position to win, even when they don't feel like winning. They don't care who wins. And that's not always easy. Sometimes it's not always pretty.
Yeah.
But your employees are going to understand the difference. I do feel this way. They're going to understand the difference between being passionate and having a deeper care about what you're doing and them.
Yeah.
Rather than just being, I'm the boss kind of attitude, I'm a dictator kind of attitude, you do it because I told you to, whether that's the right way or not.
You can lead with fear and make people do things because they're scared of you, but you cannot inspire greatness with fear. You don't inspire greatness by yelling at people, by screaming about P&Ls and all these things. How do you inspire people that maybe are, not thinking the same way as you, don't have as much, you can't tell everybody everything that's happening in the business, right? Maybe they don't know all the things that are going on. How do you inspire the person all the way from the cashier to the CEO to be great, to continue to want to win?
Through conversations like this and through conferences like this, something that I've kind of adapted within myself is that, especially working for an employee-owned company, but you want to see everybody around you, whether it's your customers, your employers, your coworkers, you want everybody to be successful. If everybody can make $1 million, wouldn't you want that?
Yeah.
And so even though that might be unrealistic, at the same time, that is then with my president that conversation I just had the other day was my main goal is to make sure that everybody can be as successful as possible.
Yeah.
And whether that's me doing my own research on whether it's products, trends, going back to school, gaining another degree, there's a certain level as at least as a leader and a manager, there's a certain level of sacrifice that you have to do. I think it is ultimately required to invest in yourself to have more tools to put people in better positions. And so that's kind of the thing that I like to do to inspire people, because to be honest with you, you really shouldn't lead by fear, because most employees, if they have enough respect for you, if they respect you, they're not going to want to let you down.
Right.
No matter if they're making 10 cents an hour or 50 an hour, there's a certain level of personal connection there that they just don't want to let you down.
Sure.
And so I think if they know you have their best interest in mind, regardless of what happens, whether it's a level of trust or things you do for them outside of the normal realm of that relationship, they're going to have a conscience of they're going to have to do this the right way. And I know that may be hard to grasp sometimes, but that's just what I found in my short existence so far, is that, you have to, the old saying, you have to treat people the way you want to be treated. And I know it sounds generic, but when you're dealing with a different generation every day, that's what I found that works, at least for now.
I think a lot about how communication is different for each person, but it also generationally, there's a lot of communication style differences. We were talking earlier, so you were in the session about branding, and we were talking about visibility, and then we had a great conversation afterwards about how things are changing. Yet there's still so many different generations in our business that what has worked for a certain generation that's been running the business is still true. Like word of mouth business, walking in the store, buying the thing, calling on a phone, all those things are still true. However, searching on ChatGPT and TikTok are also true. E-commerce is also important. How do you find the spot where you can get people to buy into these new ideas and understand that it is going to continue to be more important in our business to do things like optimize with AI, to have e-commerce? Even if they don't buy the thing online, they still want to look at it online before they get to the store. What are you guys at Lumber King doing, and what are you personally doing to figure that out?
So it's funny. My wife, she's an elementary school teacher, and we often have a conversation about how education is changing rapidly. So when I was a kid in school, when she was as well, it was kind of one curriculum, either you get it or you don't. Yeah. Today, every kid has their own case file, and it is incredibly personalized as far as how they learn. And transferring that, I actually use her as a lot of inspiration, because if you transfer that over, every customer is different. Our industry, like we were talking about, is changing every single day. And so you have to be not only adaptable, but you have to be really flexible in how you market your business, how you interact with the public in general. And so when you have certain generations that have built their brand, so there's no secret about it. I mean, we have a lot of older age, a lot of ancestry embedded in our company. Yeah. And so those people who built the brand of Lumber King, they don't want to change what they've been doing. Sure. They built that brand on what they did.
Well, and it's worked for a long time.
It has.
I mean, and probably been extremely successful for a long time.
We've had some great successes. And honestly, I know that I'm here this week for Young Retail of the Year, but there's been many of late. There's been many awards that have found its way to our campus. Yeah. And so the business, we are growing, and it's, I think a lot of it has been like the newer generations circulating in. But like every business goes through, we're going through massive growing pains right now.
It is so hard to grow.
Yeah,
I don't think people understand when you say, everybody says they want to have exponential growth, or like, let's 10x this thing, and that seems really fun on like a book cover or on an Instagram reel or something where you're all pumped up and it's kind of like 300 where you're ready to run into war. But holy crap, it's hard.
To be honest, I don't know. And this sounds really cold to say it like this, but you really don't know, as far as a corporation, you don't know who's going to make it through it and who's not. Yeah. Because frankly, with our industry and the way it is changing and growing so much, with age, that business is going to outgrow some people. If you're not willing to change with it, the company at some point, whatever it may be, whatever industry it is, they're not going to have really much of a choice but to move on from you if you're not willing to grow and adapt.
It's easy to hide in a company that's relatively complacent and stagnant. Dave Ramsey talks a lot about, complacency, because he's a huge, coach, business, all these things he's done have been kind of like crazy because no one else did them before him. And he actually I read a book recently that he wrote about being complacent himself. And then he kind of had to re-engage. And I think about this a lot when we have customers at Grit Blueprint that they're 70-year businesses, they're 100-year businesses, they're maybe third, fourth generation. And if we say, like, we could grow this thing 10 or 20% this year, we'd have to do all this stuff. It's going to be really hard. It's going to be a lot of blood. It's going to be sweat and tears. It's going to be late night hours. Like, for them as an owner, if they're 60, 70, 80, you got to have something like really in you burning to want to do that, to grow 10% or 20%. Now, there are a lot of people, I feel like I'll be 100. I'll be like, let's grow this thing. But I think it has to be something inside you. It's like a hole that you can't fill, or you are doing it for a purpose.
Yeah.
Purpose, especially since you guys are an ESOP. I love that. And I'm excited because I think that model could be like a huge savior for our business with some of the other ways that acquisitions are happening and things like that, because it keeps the heart and the purpose in the business. How does purpose drive you at Lumber King and your team? Because I think an ESOP has way more heart. And I believe heart is the thing that will have you endure the pain that growth brings.
You're 100% right. The ESOP has kind of always been something close to me. Not because it's just my own personal stock in how we do, but it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier with sports and state championship rings and stuff like that. But you always want to be. It's like always trying to find the better version of yourself.
Yeah.
It's not about owning 500 locations. It's not about grossing the most dollars ever. It's about being the best version of ourselves. And we're nowhere close to that, but that's what drives me. And I've had a lot of conversations with some of our upper management that, like you were saying, it's really hard if they're close to retirement or they feel like they've kind of made it, right? They don't see the urgency. And that's what it really is. For me, it's kind of like an unsettling urgency that I want to be better than what we are. Like I look and I see and I'm like, there are so many things that we can do different and be better. You were up here giving your presentation and like my mind was going 100 mile an hour. And like we were talking earlier, you got to slow down for a second. You can't do every bit of it at once.
Sure.
I think that's the biggest driver for me is just knowing that there are so many better versions of ourselves and myself personally that you can achieve. And I think to a certain level that's pretty contagious is if you do it right. Yeah. Some people they can be turned off by that. Yeah. And like it's sometimes I think it's misconstrued as to whether or not you're being selfish or not. Yeah. And it's not a selfish endeavor at all. It's, I know a better version of me is ultimately going to be better for my company and those around me. And that's ultimately what I want.
But when you have the right team and you have a team of A players, we talk about it a lot at our team. We currently have about 10 people in our team, and it's 10 pretty hungry people. Like we want to win and we want to do something that's a category of one. Like, how do we be the best at what we're trying to do? And so when we think about that, it's like if you get the people that understand that, there's not much that you can't do together. I think that A talent, it's hard to come by. It's getting harder in our industry because there's more competitive, people pay more, people offer more. But there's something about being on a team where, like, you've been on the state championship team. I'm a little bit jealous, I'm not going to lie, because all of my teams sucked everywhere I ever went to school. However, I was in a super nerdy fun fact. I was actually a classically trained singer, and I was in a really, really great choir in college. That's awesome. We were kind of like a national championship. I didn't get a ring, which I'm pretty pissed about. But it was the feeling of being with people around you that are also really good at what they're doing, and they're trying to get a lot better every day. And we would challenge ourselves with harder things, harder pieces of music. And then once I got to corporate, I felt that way, and I feel that way now. If you're on a team of people that are all pushing each other each day, and then you go to like a boring, let's just check the box, you can't get that out of your system. Like, you can't turn that off. And so I think if you find enough people that are like that, and you can get the culture of that in your surroundings, it's pretty unstoppable.
Yeah, I agree. I've been with Lumber King right at 13 years. When I first started with them, it was a very, the atmosphere, and I don't know that they would mind me saying this because I think a lot of people would agree. The atmosphere was very, each location was their own, and and like it was, nobody worked together.
Yeah,
there was no
silos.
communication. And over the years, and that's been something that I've wanted to change more than anything, and I think for the most part we have. Is to be more cohesive as a company. And one thing that I would love to see us get better at is our continuity from our corporate office to our store levels, and to have a main goal like at the top of the pyramid that you're trying to reach. So that, when you're an employee-owned company, everybody from, I don't care if you, even taking the lumber building material aspect out of it, I don't care if you wash dishes or if you're a cook or if you're the restaurant owner, everybody's working towards one goal.
100%.
And so if you have people that are both hungry to reach that goal and they all want to get better, knowing that if they get better, they reach that goal, I think that everybody's better because of it. They have better attitudes, the morale's better. Ideally, the money will be better at some point, right? I mean, that's what we all want, is to be more successful. And so that's what I love, frankly, about this industry as a whole right now, because you come to conferences like this and anybody outside of your next door neighbor that you're competing with, everybody cares about how well everybody else is doing. And
it is a very friendly, even, like you were just talking to someone who's in the same state as you. I don't know if y'all compete against each other or not, but it's everybody wants everybody else to get better, because collectively, if our industry is stronger, it is better for everyone, I believe.
Correct.
I think that the point of, where we're at in our industry is a kind of a breaking point with the technology piece. I don't think people admit that as much as possible. I know, it's coming. It'll be slower to come here than everywhere else in the world, but AI is not going to slow down. Also, the generational changes, if you take AI out of the mix totally, just the fact that we have a generation that will be fully retired probably in the next 10 to 15 years, and they're the patriarchs and the matriarchs of our industry, the people who are running everything and have been for 40 years, that should be scary and exciting to people. And if it's scary, it's because you're hopefully not, you're not totally head in the sand, but you're probably not as concerned as you should be. And if it's exciting, it's because there's so many cool new things that can happen, not only with the next generation of workers, but the next generation of people who are buying from your company. So I'm curious, you talked about, we were talking about branding and all those things, and you said your brain was, what inspired you, like, you were thinking that's a good idea, or I should think about that, or where, because I always like to know what it is.
So in this conversation, to a certain extent, has been a common one over the last few years for me. When you have board members and executives all talking about, well, we have to hit this number, we have to meet this certain goal of a sales as a company by this date, or whatever the goal is. How do we get there without growing more stores? Right? And here's the thing, today, when generations today care so much about branding, as a millennial, I care about branding. Like, if your brand is clean, it looks good, and I know that to a certain extent it's going to be reliable because everybody I'm watching is using your product. I'm going to be your loyal fan. That's been the huge thing with just Milwaukee at that point. And Diablo and a few other brands, Yellowwood being a massive one. All of these companies have massive advertising and following that all you have to do is advertise that you have them, and you're piggybacking off of their advertisements.
They're doing all the work for us.
You absolutely are. They are. And all you have to do is say, hey, world, we have this, and do a good job to advertise. And you got to do pretty well with it. I mean, you don't want to just like throw it on the shelf and just have it there. But as long as you actively promote it and work it, people are going to come to wherever that is. I mean, Yellowwood has some of the funniest commercials, and they're everywhere. Between the Super Bowl, NASCAR, Christmas, whatever it is.
We're both Southern, so I know you'll love this. But Jimmy Raines obviously was one of the first people that I ever saw do branding in our industry. And he was CEO and owner of, Yellowwood, of Great Southern Wood Preserving. And I remember when I was a little girl, he did the Western videos. I don't know if you remember this, where he's riding the horse and he's got like a banana yellow chaps on and everything. And they've obviously quit using those. You got to look it up.
Yeah.
I remember that was the first time I ever saw someone do something cool and weird and crazy in this industry. And my dad thought he was nuts, and he was nuts, and everybody loved it. And so 25 years later, or however long, I think that was in the 95. And he still is there figuring out, it's other people obviously now, but I was in one of my customers in Georgia, a lumberyard, and they have a great Southern Wood, Yellowwood container. And I thought, they made pressure treated lumber, which is the plainest, most boring thing, cool, and branded, where you look for a color tag and you see something much like a pink hat and you know what it is, right? And that matters to people, and they remember it, whether they subconsciously or consciously know. But like, for instance, they have a box that they have right now that says, "What in tarnation?" Who uses the word tarnation? Well, we do, because we're Southerners. We know what that was. I saw that and I was like, you know what? That's hilarious. And it was at that customer's, and it was in the floor, and it had KDAT wood, and it said, "What in tarnation?" And I thought, that's different. It's funny. People that are Southern contractors get that. That probably wouldn't fly in California. I don't know if they would know what the heck that even means. Do you say tarnation in California?
Probably not. I think it depends on what part of California you go to.
But but that's the thing, is they understand their market, and they're willing to go out, and they're willing to do something that might not work, that people might talk about them for. But what if they talk about you because you're the coolest, most memorable thing?
I have people that come in our store, and they want Yellowwood because they believe it's the best. Frankly, it's the same treatment for the most part as anybody else's. Now, they may buy better wood, if you want to get down to specifics.
But the patent has probably run out now.
I mean, you have to. I mean, it's like a mandated code that you have to keep for wood, and so they want Yellowwood, and so. The funniest thing for me that I always pick up on, and it's so small, but my OCD brain picks it up, but when they have the piece of wood on the commercial and they go to staple the tag on it, the stapler is pointed the opposite direction from the staples when it goes in. And I always remember that. I'm like, Yellowwood, that's it, before I ever even carried it.
I love it. And Milwaukee's another.
Milwaukee's
you have a Red Zone in your store. Tell me a little bit about the Red Zone.
So the Red Zone was... Actually, I can't take all the credit for it, because there is a company in Columbus, Ohio called Ohio Power Tool that started as a small mom and pop store that became, through revolutionizing, became at the time, one of the biggest online retailers for power tools. And it was, that's kind of what sparked it. And so they had red floors and all that. And so what I did was I was like, hey, nobody around here carries Milwaukee. Nobody carries Diablo. And it's got this huge following. And I'm like, we need this. Everybody wants it. And they're traveling, Lord knows how many miles to go get it. Thankfully, through some vulnerability, through some personnel changes, I was actually able to have the leeway to implement that.
That's awesome.
And so just judging off of the thousands of dollars I had spent personally on those power tools, I knew I built it piece by piece and ran off of promos with Do It Best or Milwaukee Direct. And that has been a huge winner for us because awesome. we tapped into a niche that was not tapped into, and since then has everybody. You look around the corner and everybody's got Milwaukee now, but you still have to line up and put your pads on and play football.
100%.
And so we still have people that come from across the state that have heard Lumber King Danville is the place to come by Milwaukee.
That's super cool.
And that's not our bread and butter only, but it has certainly been what we've been known for here lately.
That's cool.
I can remember looking at our P&L statements for the year, and although this is not what our store grossed, our inside sales only tapped out at like a little over $10,000 in 2021. Then you take whenever I was able to kind of do the Milwaukee and the Diablo, and it went from from 21 at $10,000, 22, only partial year with Milwaukee, we were already over 70,000. In the last 2 years, we've been considerably over 350,000.
Wow, that's amazing.
Like, and you know, our store is an old trucking transfer station built in the 50s.
Yeah.
That does not scream, "Hey, come shop here, millennials." And so that comment's been made a lot. But you know, you still, if you line up, you do it right, and you have the right goal in mind.
Yeah.
We found a lot of success for it to where all of our stores in our company now carry, they stock Milwaukee. And as a company, the last 2 years, we've been right around $1 million
Love it.
in Milwaukee as far as sales. So.
Red Zone's making you a lot of green.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
well, I
like
want to end with 2 last questions. So tell me a little bit about being a Do It Best store. Talk to me about why you love being a Do It Best partner and what that is for your business.
Do It Best, as my career has progressed, my relationship with them has gotten a lot closer. And Do It Best is one of those special companies, and I do say special because every person that I've talked to that has been employed at that company has been nothing but outstandingly nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're overwhelmingly pushy to help you. And I say pushy, and maybe that's not the right word, but they're all about building your better brand, and rightfully so. The better you are, the better they are.
Sure.
But they're all about the success of others, which creates success for everybody. And so everybody from my rep and Drew Banyas, he's been one of the best coaches and mentors that I could have ever asked for. We really connect on our ideals and things, and we've had some similar paths.
That's awesome.
And so it's nice that way, all up to the academies and the trainings that they provide by bringing individuals like yourself and Bradley Hartman and just giving you the best opportunities they can for you to learn and be better stewards of our industry. And
awesome.
that's you know, all in all, I mean, and you can take the specifics of what it means to be a Do It Best member as your own company, but just there's not really a whole lot like them out there.
Yeah, they're great. And I think they're always trying to push to make sure, like you said, what do you need to make your brand better? Because, hey, if our customers win, you win, and your customers win, it's all good. It all comes back right in the wash, that's for sure. All right, well, last question is, you are an award-winning Retailer of the Year this year, so congratulations on that. If you were starting out in the business, and you were going to tell someone who was a young retailer some advice, what one piece of advice would you give them?
The one piece of advice that I do give a lot is actually don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Take the experience along with invest in higher education, and that doesn't mean automatically going to college or do anything like that, but invest in the resources that the NHPA offer you. Invest in buying products on your own money, in your own time, researching, you know, YouTube. Those are all things that I did, but you know, if depending on who you ask, everybody's got different opinions, but in my opinion, in order to be a great young retailer, a great merchant in our industry today, you really do need both the experience and the education. And you need to mix both worlds because there are a lot of old timers out there that can give you fantastic advice. But there's also things that they don't know that are changing. And so you can become the best of both worlds as long as you're able to adapt. And to boil it all down, the main thing I tell them is invest in yourself to make yourself more marketable for companies that are going to hire you. You know, not everybody's going to, you know, at least up to my point, be a lifer or a 10-year person in a company. But, you know, there are companies out there looking for people because nobody's beating the doors down to get into this industry. And
they don't realize how much opportunity is out there. I think that's a great point to say that basically you are a brand yourself, and the more you can invest in it and the more you can do, there's no returns that are greater than the return on investment in yourself.
That's right.
Because you'll put everything into, you know, anything else, any other channel, and you get 100% of the payback that you put into yourself and your own development. So I love that answer. I think it's Very, very smart. So I have enjoyed talking to you. I think we probably could have done like an 8-hour podcast. So I really appreciate it. And congratulations on all your success. I know you're going to be wildly successful as you continue to grow. I'm excited to continue, hopefully, to collaborate and follow your story. So thank you so much for being on the Grit Blueprint, and have a great time in Orlando.
Thank you for having me. I'd love to be back again. This is a blast.
Awesome.
This is a blast.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Grit Blueprint podcast. If this episode helped you think a little differently about how to show up, share it with someone in your building world who needs it. If you're ready to turn visibility into growth, then head to gritblueprint.com to learn more and book a call to talk to us about your growth strategy. Until next time, stay unmistakable.